Hey, what's with the Band-Aid?
Oh, it's just my latest COVID shot.
Didn't you just get one?
No, that was months ago. We got to stay up to date. This is the latest bivalent booster.
You make it sound like it's a superpower or something.
It is. Power up your immunity. Don't let COVID catch you off guard. Go to powerupagainstcovid.com for more information.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Oh, my man. You know, everybody goes through a storm sometimes.
God is, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world have a new address. We're now located at 4916 Rainier Avenue South in Columbia City, 98118. God is still loving on your community, being a blessing and meeting the needs of the people. Don't miss any of our amazing shows. Your favorite community radio station. Tune in and come on down and get some free food and let us continue to love on you. Don't forget to tune in. See you soon for free food and free entertainment with God is and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Rainier Avenue Radio. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan, Cotto touching bases with you from the historic Columbia City Theater. I've got Mick Hoffman with me, who is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I think you know that by now. I think you know who we are. And we are WIAA Primetime, our weekly conversation about athletics in the state of Washington as conducted by our high schools, and also not just athletics, activities that are also conducted by our state association and the executive director. Mick, welcome. Good to see you today.
Hey, good to be back. Thanks for having me.
So great to see you. Well, you had a little bit of a splash yesterday.
Yeah.
The University of Washington will be the home next year of the football championship games, and the first time, and it just was lost on me, the first time in 29 years the games are going to be hosted in Seattle.
Yeah, it's a big deal for all of us, and we just want to really show our appreciation to Dan Erickson and Jen Cohen, who have really shown a high desire to bring these back to Seattle, and specifically to Husky Stadium. You know, Jen being a Curtis grad and former Washington athlete, it was personal to her, and they went to work and they got it to a point where we think it hopefully will work for all parties. So we're excited to be in one spot, Husky Stadium. To us, that's what we've wanted this entire time.
Tell us about that. Now we were at the Tacoma Dome, and obviously there were some issues there and challenges that we were starting to face with that facility. And we went back to the high schools, and the high schools seemed to, number one, give the games a little bit more of an intimate feel, a little bit more of an academic quality. You're at a high school. Now going back to the big cavernous stadium, what are we going to do to get that building filled up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and that's been part of it, was comparing the cost benefit of cost to experience. I'll tell you, the schools that hosted us did a phenomenal job and worked really hard. This is not a reflection on what they did or did not do. But when you have a large stadium that you see on TV on a regular basis, that's a Division I field, and you're a player, that's different. The fan experience will be very different. We'll be really curious. We've been surveying and doing after event reviews on a regular basis for all our events for the last 2 years. And so we have a lot of data to talk about, what is it like for the student athlete? One of the challenges that still exists is we might only have 2 full locker rooms to use. That's why we're spreading out the games 4 years.
4 hours.
4 hours. So hopefully the Huskies are in the college football playoffs. They'll be using their locker room. They'll be most likely continuing to host the women's regional volleyball for the NCAA. Takes up the arena's locker rooms. So we'll make it work, but we need time because we want to give our teams, one of the things we heard from schools at the high school stadiums with only 2 locker rooms, is they want plenty of time to prepare before the game together and meet. And after the game, it's the end of your career for a lot of them, a lot of their playing career for sure, for most. And they want time together as an athlete. You know how important that time is. I mean, I remember, being with my buddies those last games. I mean, that's hard. So we want to make sure that experience is more than just running on that field, but with the Daktronics and being on the river, we just need to make sure the weather cooperates.
Tell us how that's going to work. So we have games on Friday and Saturday. What's the schedule going to look like?
So game times will be 11, 3, and 7. And we've been very clear up front that the B schools will have those 11 o'clock times to give optimal opportunity for our largest crowds to attend. So we'll be 7 o'clock will be the 3A, 4A times, and then the 1A, 2A at 3. And we'll do just for simplicity, the odd classifications are going to play on Friday, and the evens will play on Saturday. And if this works out for everybody and we go back and we stay at one venue, being Husky Stadium, we can rotate that each year to give the other classifications the opportunity. Who knows? We may find that B8 football takes off and it's our biggest crowd and we need to get their fans in there. But right now, with what we're doing, this is the plan.
What is the hope? What is the best hope? And you said it a little earlier that before we came on that the biggest day that we've had recently is 11,500. Was that in Tacoma?
Attendance, yeah.
Attendance
it was at the high schools. When we went outside, our attendance actually went up a little bit.
Going outside of Tacoma.
Yeah. So at one point, we were around 16,000, 17,000 fans coming to Tacoma Dome, and it's bottomed out at about 10,000. And it was a steady decline before it went outside. It stabilized and actually went up. And our semifinal football, which is outside, which also on the west side was indoors, has actually increased over the 2 years. So those are high school venues and they're outdoors. So, and it's over Thanksgiving, which can be a benefit or can be a challenge depending on traveling families. So, we've seen we're trying to sort it out, what's causing that. And that's why we're doing these surveys. So our hope is by being at Husky Stadium, 3 games a day, that the casual fan will come back. Now we understand they're going to be outdoors, but that's what we got. So hopefully we will see that casual football fan come back, and we'll find out how big football really is in the state of Washington.
What's the best hope? Have you done any studies? Have you been able to kind of analyze what you think a central location in a major urban area with transportation virtually tied right to the building? Yeah. There's some tremendous advantages to being at Husky Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with the train running through there and just the amenities that are around, you can watch, before you could watch 2 games. Now you could watch all the games. There's plenty of hotels right there that if you want to come for 2 days, you're on a college campus, there's something to see. Again, we realize it's December and that may be a challenge or not, but so that's our hope, is that we'll do a really good job. We have a good communication team with Casey Johnson and Andy Knapp, and we'll get plenty of information out to people for how they can use public transportation to get there. So if they don't want to fight traffic. So maybe we just inducted Mayor Harrell into, maybe he'll give us some police escorts for transportation in.
Well, and I'll tell you, with Coach Witherspoon up there, they have a very exciting quarterback in BJ Kemayong, who's got a scholarship to the University of Washington. Who knows? You might see the mayor there rooting on his alma mater.
Yeah, exactly. No, so we're excited, and there's really good football in this area. So hopefully some of the local teams are in, and that helps our attendance quite a bit, and hopefully we'll get Seattle people interested in coming down and checking out Husky Stadium. Now that they're winning again, it's getting tougher to get a ticket. It's a lot cheaper ticket than that. So people can come in, experience the facility, experience the campus. And again, for our students, a very good friend of mine who is the Wyoming executive director, I've met with him this winter, and they had gone to the University of Wyoming, who provided their facility for them. And he said, Mick, here's what I can tell you from going from the high school stadiums they did to this. When I was on the field the first time and seeing those kids' face coming out of the tunnel on there, I knew we made the right decision. And so that's, for us, people are saying, well, no kidding. We need to make sure, too, that the other part of it that you started this conversation with was the atmosphere within there. We're going to be in these large ones with small crowds. What does that do to the game as well? That's what to remain to be seen. And we'll get that information from our students who are participating, from our coaches, and from our fans. And we'll be able to make a decision after that.
Have you heard from any coaches over the last couple of days?
Yeah. They're excited. It was interesting. Before, they were kind of split on that Washington Football Coach Association. We'd meet with their executive board and any interested coaches every year. Andy Barnes and I'd go in, and they're somewhat split on it because once they experienced the high schools and it's packed, 3,000 people felt like a full Husky Stadium. Not quite as loud, but it's that different feel. And at the high school level, that's something you don't normally get. Take those same fans and you put them in 80,000 seats, like you say, we don't know what that's going to be, right? So we've been working off assumptions on this because of Jen Cohen and her team making this financially viable for the year. We now get to test it. It's an experiment, and we get to find out, and then our board can make some decisions. In the meantime, we're generating, some alternative revenue streams. Hey, if there's people out there that want to donate and help with football, we're happy to do that. And in the meantime, we're going to continue conversations with other nice venues, large venues like that. Memorial will be coming online at some point. We don't know what the final design is. So there's going to be some options moving forward. We just hopefully this works and we can stay. It's for us logistically, it's a lot better.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I'm Juan Cotto, radio personality here at your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where there's a gentleman. Are you looking for someone? Oh, Tony B. He just went out on the corner. He'll be back in about. You can put it right there, and we'll make sure he gets it. Put it right there. We'll get you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Hey, thank you very much. Hey,
you are full service.
Always fun to help out people and conduct business over here on Rainier Avenue, where we really are on Rainier Avenue. You can see it behind me. We're at 4916 Rainier Avenue South. You don't need to stop by because this is a actual live program. So, and of course, Mick obviously comes on Tuesdays and graciously grants us some of his incredibly busy time. And when he's not meeting with Jen Cohen and the powers of the University of Washington Athletic Department, he's sitting here and he's telling us some stories about sports in our community. I'm excited about going. I'm excited to go to Husky Stadium.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you right now, Mick Hoffman, I'm going to miss being out there at Sparks Stadium with 1,500 people, sounding like 3,000 in a nice, intimate venue.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, the reaction of fans and players and coaches who have been there for that. Because a lot of people, I'm going to guess, a lot of people who had pretty strong opinions out there in the Twitter sphere, they didn't actually attend or didn't know. And yeah, so the assumption is bigger is better. In this case, we'll find out. And that's why our board was very comfortable. Plus the Huskies, they need to decide still what conference are they going to be in. With the football playoffs expanding and their program, the trajectory that it's on, they're likely, especially in an expanded one, but even this year, they could be playing in that thing. And so that, as far as facilities, the field will still be available, but the facilities, locker room specifically, and then just what their staff is able to provide. So we want to make sure it works for them. I mean, they're being really good partners, and we want to do our part to support that.
Big week for Jen Cohen. Her youngest son, the second boy, he graduated from my alma mater, O'Dea High School, and had an opportunity to to send her a note of congratulations, and always fun to renew memories. Had the 40th anniversary, 40th reunion of my high school class. We got together right next door at Tutabella's here on Rainier Avenue, giving them a free plug. We'll probably see if Tony can get a little bit of payment for that. But always wonderful that spring sports kind of renew those memories, and certainly it was a very, very exciting time. So we're looking forward once again to building those relationships and building those positive things in our community with the state football tournament. One more question about the. Are you concerned at all? 3 games, 1 day, 11 o'clock. 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You're going to start at kids are going to get there probably around like 9:30, and we're going to finally close this thing out probably close to 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
it's a long. That's two long days of work.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what our staff does. The nice thing is we'll be working on 1 facility as opposed to 3, because right now we start around 11 o'clock. I'm trying to remember our exact schedule. I think we went 11 and 3 this year. Might have been 12 and 4. So it's really not much change for a startup time, but our staff, we don't have to go out and set up 3 stadiums. We don't have to work with 3 management teams. And so it will simplify some of the work for us that way. So there's a lot of efficiency. So that's why increased cost isn't necessarily a hard cost only, because we're hoping that what we had to spend getting those 3 facilities ready with those school districts, we can now spend in enhancing the fan and participant experience.
It should be a very, very, very exciting December. And is Rainier Avenue Radio going to be there?
Oh, yeah. We hope so.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will be there, and I'm sure I will be there at 11 a.m. Enjoying the excitement. So we're looking forward. Congratulations, I guess you're going to have to say that first off. Congratulations. I know that was a big step for you.
Yeah, and really within the office, Andy Barnes has worked continuously since the move out of the Tacoma Dome to continue to develop this relationship and find a way to make it work. So Andy deserves the credit for making this happen.
Let's talk about we just got done with tournaments.
Yeah.
Geez. We had our spring tournaments. We had baseball. We had golf. We had tennis. We had track and field. How from a standpoint of community and from a standpoint of getting all of the stuff taken care of by your staff, how was the month of May and the last couple of weeks heading into Memorial Day and all of the tournaments, and then how did the venues and everything work out?
Well, the bag's under my eyes. I'm looking in the mirror when I look around the office. People have worked in our office really hard. We have about 3 more weeks that we really need to push hard getting these bids out for what we're doing. And we can talk about tournament review. So usually the tournament ends at this week is kind of catch your breath. And honestly, we had time to celebrate that, hey, we did it. We had some really great moments, and now we're grinding and working. And so for us, our impression of it, what feedback we're getting on our surveys, is a very successful spring from the point of view, really high quality events in really nice venues. Attendance was really good across the board. We had some phenomenal performances. We had, for the most part, behavior is getting a lot better, both on the field and off the field for the most part. So it was, I spent most of my time, I was able to hit some soccer and some fast pitch, but most of my time at the big track venues where we have a lot going on with Justin. I usually try to cover the one he's not at. And I mean, Mount Tahoma was jam full. Yakima was jam full. We had some unbelievable, the bell was ringing a lot for this new state record. So it was cool.
Mick, it sounds like the most impressive performance of the entire tournament season was turned in by the team that helped this young woman who collapsed at the finish line of a race. Can you take us through that situation, and can we talk about the importance of having trained staff to be able to help us get through these types of situations? And it sounds like this young woman was very, very fortunate. She was able to be helped by this incredible team who really, more important than any state championship that was being conducted, they won a major championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Zeffel Stadium over there in Yakima School District was jam-packed full. I mean, it was literally full, lined up around the fence, and 4x100 was running. This young lady's running the anchor, and she hit the finish line and boom, face first. I was not there. Justin was there right at the finish line and witnessed this. And she went down, and the trainers were right there and immediately responded and started CPR on her. Did that for about a minute. The AED was fetched during that time, and within a minute and 40 seconds of her going down, they had deployed the AED on her and restarted her heart right there on the track. And they're able to, she became coherent, was able to communicate. Meanwhile, the ambulance was en route. Within 6 minutes, she was transported, got her to the hospital. They life flighted her over to Seattle Children's. Seattle Children's did a wonderful job of identifying an issue. There's some family history that they didn't know why or what. She had a significant medical procedure done, and my understanding is she's trying to go back to school on Wednesday. So really an incredible young lady and very resilient family. Justin's done a really nice job staying in contact. The two athletic trainers, Justin, when we came in the office, one of his first tasks was to create these emergency action plans. And one of the requirements of anybody hosting our event is to make sure they have one in place. So he developed a template with our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, Dr. Dresner, a lot of them who work with the Seahawks and the Huskies and other physicians. They went to work on that, and the young ladies with us today because of those individuals and the planning that went into it. And I can't think of anything more tragic than losing a child, especially suddenly. And because of the adults prepared in action, they did it. So I don't even know what place they finished in that race. No one. That's one thing no one's asked.
They finished first.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's talk about this for just a second, because I was speaking with my daughter about repetitions the other day. She's got a little performance coming up in front of her fourth grade class, and she's excited, but at the same time she's nervous. But she told me because of the repetitions that she's put in, she's practiced it so many times, she feels like it's second nature now.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we always discuss in regards, and I think coaches always talk about that. Thinking about this particular situation, how does a training staff like that, how do they get the repetitions to be so immediately effective when a situation like this happens?
Yeah, well, these two gentlemen, along with Sarah Cordova, who is their athletic director, head of safety and security in Yakima, this is an emphasis for them. So they talk about it, and just like with your daughter, what's the magic number? Macklemore song, 10,000 hours, right? None of us are born great at anything. Some of us have some innate skills or lack of, but over 10,000 hours, you can do it. And so in this case, I was told after this whole event that the athletic trainer piece was going to be lost in the Yakima Valley. And one of these trainers, he actually went out and found funding in a way to secure it and leads it and does a lot of the training. So both of these gentlemen do a lot of training of others as well. So the best way to learn something is to teach it. And a perfect example. So just their training, their experience, and then their willingness to bring others in, they got it. And they knew exactly what to do. There's no question. They knew who was in charge. Matter of fact, they had, when you get to that point, modesty's out, but still there are people conscientious enough to line up on the track, some of the other adults, to try to prevent, you have thousands of people in the stands, but to give enough room for them to work, but also provide some type of human shield so it's not just out there in front of everybody. So they just, the more we hear, the more the details on the report, it's absolutely incredible how prepared they were and how they executed. That was definitely a state championship caliber presentation.
Well, congratulations to that particular group of individuals, and also congratulations to the staff and Justin for all the work they do to be in position.
Yeah.
You just never you prepare just in case, but once in a while just in case happens, and to be able to be so prepared and to be able to make sure that this young woman is still walking on earth is just it's a phenomenal testament to the work that you all do.
Yeah. So when the coaches are saying, "What, I have to do CPR again? What, I have to do this?" Like, you want to react in that situation, not think. And imagine the guilt you'd walk around with your entire life if you had the opportunity to be prepared for it
and just an opportunity for us to conduct these championships, which give our kids something to compete for throughout the year, something for the communities to look forward to. And tell us, so you were, for track and field, we were in 3. We're at Mount Tahoma, we were in Yakima.
2.
So we had the 2.
Yeah.
Where were we for golf?
Let's see, we were in Tumwater, we were down at River's Edge, or Liberty Lake and Qualsham. So we were in Spokane, and then South Sound primarily.
So we had some championships on the east side of the state.
Oh yeah,
and we know that can also be a challenging thing at times.
Yeah, there's some conspiracy theory out there. We're trying to move everything to the west side. It's actually financially for us better to be on the east side. Big school, we do a lot here. I think our stats right now, we haven't updated since we moved a couple events, but about 64% of our total state events happen on the east side of the state. So ironically this year, we normally do baseball and fast pitch on the east side because of weather. So we had 2 baseball tournaments here, Everett and Bellingham, and 1 in Ephrata. And everybody was like, what are you doing? When I was AD at Hudson's Bay, we had to move from Everett over to Yakima to play the state tournament because we got washed out. And everybody's like, what are you doing? Well, guess where we got rained out? East side, Ephrata. And this is what makes this job fun. This is like, there's so many people who we have a term, we are the WIAA. And people are like, what the heck? What's that mean? That's warm and fuzzy. We had 200 and some volunteers, some slightly paid, underpaid stipends, and a lot of volunteers at each track meet. And when Ephrata got rained out, we needed baseball, and they wanted to finish on Saturday. Cindy's driving across the state to the other venues. She's on the phone with the ADs running it, Brian up there. And Wenatchee says, we'll host one. And Yakima says, we'll host another. So you know what they did? They went and grabbed some of the banners and stuff from track, the people in Yakima. By the time the teams arrived from Ephrata down in Yakima for their state championship game, they had banners up, they had the concessions up, the whole field was operating, they had scoreboard operator, everything. Within 2 hours, the community of Yakima, Mel over there is absolutely incredible. Mel Moore and Rich Austin, and they did that, and Wenatchee did something very similar. So that's how this stuff works. I mean, and Cindy's quarterbacking this from her cell phone on the side of the road as she's going over the pass. And so that's how reliant we are on other athletic directors and individuals. So we're, to be a party, we talk about the Rainier Avenue and Columbia City community and how tight-knit that is and take care of each other. It's not only here, but this expands across the state. And it's for people to do that, for those kids to be able to play that state championship game is awesome.
An awesome weekend it was for the staff. So we are going to come back and we will continue to have this conversation with Mick Hoffman from the WIAA on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not busy tearing the roof off the suckers, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You probably have questions about COVID vaccines. Here are some answers about how they're being made.
How are COVID vaccines being produced faster?
Usually, vaccine testing and production are separate steps. But because of the pandemic, vaccines are being developed on parallel tracks. So both steps are happening just at the same time.
How are the vaccines being tested?
Right now, several different COVID vaccines are in testing. Each go through multiple clinical trials with up to thousands of volunteers.
How do vaccines get approved?
Not all COVID vaccine versions will make it to the final stages of testing and approval. Produced vaccines that do not pass clinical trials will be destroyed. But for those that do pass, a team of medical experts will examine test results and possible side effects. If the vaccine is effective and safe, it gets approved and gets to you. Go to covidvaccinewa.org to learn more. A message from the state of Washington.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe Bean. And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
What's going on, world? It's your boy OG Mambo
and your guy D Money. Join us along with Pint Size Patron and ID Yourself
here on Fresh Juice at Rainier Avenue Radio
every Wednesday hump day from 9 to 11 Pacific.
Get exclusive interviews from your favorite artists, all the hottest music, and updates on what we got going on in the world.
That's every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio.
My name is Keith. I'm a barber from Tacoma, Washington. When the pandemic hit, it did affect me as a business owner. I had my own personal reasons why I didn't get vaccinated. But I was talking to a doctor, and he was telling me more about what it could do to protect us and our family. I wanted to get back to that once was, right? I do feel safe knowing that I am vaccinated. I just hope what I'm saying is reaching into people's heads to know that this is the best decision for all of us. To learn more, please visit hereforuswa.org.
Rainier Avenue Radio. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Welcome back to WIAA Primetime. I am Juan Cotto, Rainier Avenue Radio, host and personality, and I am here with the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, Mick Hoffman, who graciously comes over here. He spends his Tuesday afternoons with us, and we sit back and we talk about the challenges and the opportunities in high school sports throughout the state of Washington on WIAA Primetime. So, Mick, thank you so much for being here.
You bet.
Let's talk about, we talked about a situation that no parent would want to go through, seeing your child collapse, but with an incredibly trained staff and the ability to work at a split second's notice, they were able to save this young lady. And there's also challenges that come along with high school sports tournaments, right? We have weather issues. Sounds like we had some rainouts. And how does the WIAA deal with this on the continuum? How do we deal with rainouts and certain things that happen like in softball?
Yeah, during tournament time, we just have to push it back and we wait. And so there's no non-play day. So we let everybody know, if a tournament's scheduled Friday, Saturday, and we lose any of it, we're going to go into Sunday. And then we may even have to go into Monday, depending on the extent. So in this case, the baseball games we talked about there, it would play late Saturday night. Softball was a different fast pitch over in Tri-Cities. We had a lot lightning delay, and then we had a washout in the fields. And they decided the fields weren't going to be playable. So again, Yakima and others were willing to step up, and they met with the coaches, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And the coaches all agreed to play the next day, finish the games there in the midst of those contests. One was in the 6th inning. They called it. Both coaches agreed. The other two said, "We'll play tomorrow." So they went back, showered up, took their girls to dinner, got them next day, drove, and played. So each situation is a little unique depending on what's going on and the cause of it. So we move them from locations. We just delay them. Yakima had to empty the stadium at one point for track because of lightning. So there's a lot of variables that come and play. The spring, the winter, we worry about ice and snow and what we do. And a few years ago, Brian Smith was still in the office, and regional wrestling got washed out. So they went to a 3-day wrestling tournament, 32 entries. So you just make it happen. And at the end of the day, we need to provide it for the students. And so we do whatever we got to do. We just get innovative.
And lightning is no joke in Eastern Washington. No. Lightning can touch the ground. Yeah,
it'll touch you. So, and the rules are, if you see it, you put your plan into action. You don't guess how far away it is. You see it, it's in game. It's game on, and it's a 30-minute delay from the time you see it. So that's the recommendation from the experts. So that's what we follow.
To put on these venues, you need the community support. And it sounds like you had volunteers as usual. And we've discussed this before, but tell us about maybe some of the relationships that you have with people who have been doing this for years.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky. So in Tacoma, James Neal, who's the district athletic director, it's just he'll do anything to do it. And they do it for a couple reasons. One, it's the right thing. He loves kids. He's an elementary principal by trade, and now he's a high school district athletic director. So it's a great combination. And then the athletic directors down there, Rhonda Stinson at Mount Tahoma, her site gets used a lot. She's right there. She's already volunteered. Hey, I want to do tickets at Husky Stadium. Like she's the one who runs the gate list for us at the Tacoma Dome. So, and then they have their people, and whether it's relationships with community colleges where they bring students in to help work, and the coaches. And so we tried to make donations to all of them. We're not paying a high wage to anybody. So we do that, so Tacoma area, Johnny Lee's been really good from Silas High School about coming out, and he runs a lot of regional stuff for us. He helps out at Matt Classic. Matt Classic has a whole team of individuals. There's 6 athletic directors, Jim Meyerhoff in Puyallup, Tim Graham down in Tumwater, Marty Fortin, who we just inducted into our Hall of Fame, has been around doing student leadership. I mean, there's just I know I'm forgetting people. People are going to be mad at me. I apologize. But we have that, in this area of town, Pat McCarthy right here in Seattle and his team with Tara. I mean, they do so much for their conference and their league. That's why when we had the conversation about what to do with that, I mean, people get sideways and they make an opinion. They don't know what all else goes into that. I mean, a hard decision is a hard decision, but what Seattle Public Schools does to host events and to run out of Pat's office is phenomenal. The Kinko Conference, John Applegate, Jeff Lowell over there. I mean, we just have so many people. You go up north, we have really good partners. Yakima is a unicorn. They basically, at the end of the day, between their cities, Chamber of Commerce, hoteliers, Sports Commission, they almost pay all costs related to running events there. I mean, you think about that. We're just trying to break even, and the other ones are get close. They're paying those costs to bring events because they know how important it is to their economy. Spokane with the Sports Commission, Shree, who's been up there for a long time, our point of contact, and Ashley, Steph, and Madden in the arena. I mean, we just have Dave Ticker is up there, and a gentleman named Danny Beard, who's a community leader, and Ryan Poplinski. They're working really hard to try to keep B basketball up there, working with the community. Paul Kotzman with the Greater St. Helens or Greater Spokane League. So we are very, very Hector down in Tri-Cities, and we have people who want the WI there because it brings benefit there. Plus, their schools don't have to travel. Their families can attend. It's easier to attend when it's local. So, there's just a lot of really, really good people, and we have friends in the legislators that want to help out. And so, we're really lucky to offer something that people find value in, and then we need to be good caretakers of that.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. How do the referees get selected for state tournaments?
Yeah, so there's an allocation process for that, similar to teams. So there's 140 some independent official associations around the state. So every one of them gets some type of access there, and they get a self-select. They have this program where they have to have been observed and received a high enough score and basically be endorsed by the leadership in that area. And then if there's been issues, sometimes individuals may not be allowed to, based from Todd's work with the WOA. So, but they work their way through that. We hire people from the official association to manage the officials. So we'll have somebody like at Husky Stadium. So basketball, when we're in the Tacoma Dome, you have a couple officials that are leading that work. They do all the assigning, and then they have evaluators there. So they're getting evaluated for every game. So when you see those individuals on the court for the semifinals or the championship games, that means that they've been evaluated, and that's is supported by their work that week. If somebody had a bad week, they may do a preliminary game. And I mean, we've had officials leave because they're offended. We've had some say it's political. Who knows? But there's an evaluation system, and they have to perform to get those jobs. And so our kids are competing their tails off to get there. Coaches are spending years of their lives away from their family to work with young people. So we better make sure the officiating is doing the similar thing, and it's not just your turn, you're up. So
This is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, and he comes here every Tuesday, just about every Tuesday. And sometimes I come every Tuesday as well, and we come over here and we speak about sports. We speak about the activities going on in our communities, especially around youth athletics and also youth activities. Tell us, the esports teams, do they also have spring tournament, or is that in the?
Yeah, we had one this spring. Yeah, so we did 2 seasons. We've had late fall, early winter, and then a spring one. And so they told us on the Twitch channel, for those of you who are gamers, we had over 100,000 views.
Wow,
on that thing. Yeah, we only had 40 some teams.
The esports, and I know you and I have talked about this at various points during the year. Is this something that is going to start growing? And obviously there is a tremendous amount of interest in it. If you have over 100,000 views, is this something that is starting to grow? And do you see at points we're going to have these big esports tournaments that'll probably attract more than the football tournament?
100%. I mean, it has by far the greatest reach and potential for participation. There's less barriers to it. We hope so. That's the plan. You know, we have 2 ways to implement new sanctioned events. One is our amendment process. 5 schools can propose it in the fall. And then our elected representatives from around the state, there's 53, 35 high school, 18 middle school. They vote. If 60% approve it, it becomes a sanctioned activity. The other way is a trial sport, which we just ended with esports. So the board put it up as a trial. We needed 160 schools to be there. We have 40 right now. Coming out of COVID, it's not unexpected. The other issue we have is there's a really active grassroots teacher group led by Jason Dilley. It's called WIAA. They do a phenomenal job supporting schools and teachers who want to provide this opportunity. They do their own thing, and so we're trying to find a way working with them. We met with them a couple weeks ago. How do we combine this? Because that would give us, they have a little over 70 schools. So we would be well on our way. We have a lot of superintendents and athletic directors asking about it. So more to come. We're going to continue those conversations through the summer, see where we get to in the fall. Personally, the reason it's important to me is in my role, you know, we have the opportunity. We talked, Dave Ticker, who's the head of the Washington Secondary Athletic Director Association. You know, he talks about our job is to teach people how to work things out, not fight it out. Mm-hmm. That we get to do that. We've talked about this a lot.
That's great advice on a lot of different areas.
100%. I mean, and it's a skill set we've lost. And we deal with publicly failing, publicly succeeding, winners and losers, lots of emotion. So we have a chance to do this. The other piece that we can do is build community. So you think about this, in an ideal world, we get in the winter the starting quarterback and a wallflower who nobody knows that kid's name in the school. We know those kids exist. And that kid has aptitude and interest in esports. They go out for esports and show and earn their way onto that varsity esports team. That quarterback has the same gaming skills. Now they're on the same team together. Now when they pass each other around the hallway, that wallflower is not invisible. They're a teammate. They're recognized. They're connected to their school. Less apt for bad things to happen to that person and by that person, no different than that quarterback. And so we can provide this opportunity to more kids. We have about 200,000 participants. That could get us to 300,000 participants if we provide some of these new programming opportunities. So that's what we want to do with the interest. It's definitely the opportunity to be self-funding, maybe even revenue generating.
It's becoming that type of an event where you're not only the interest, but the participation is really starting to come around.
Yeah. I mean, there's schools that are highly, and the thing that's nice about it is a small school can compete with a big school in this one. It's not tied necessarily to numbers. It's really more around interest.
And what are some of the games? Are you familiar with some of the games that they play?
Thanks. So they played Smash Brothers, League of Legends, and Mario Kart were some of them. Justin, double check me. League of Legends was the big one. We don't do anything that represents first-person shooting. That's been our promise. So League of Legends is essentially a form of capture the flag in a cartoonish model, and you have different skill sets. But what a lot of people don't understand, like me growing up with the basic games, it was all sports games. Like kids, other than FIFA, maybe some Madden, that's not the main interest we get from our players. So then they immediately think COD, Call of Duty and stuff my kid plays. And that's not where we're going. So in this League of Legends, we sit down, the 5 of us on our team, and we get to pick 5 of their characters that they can't use. We get to take them off the board. So it's strategy. And then between the 5 of us, when we decide what we want, we need to decide by skill sets and aptitude of those characters what we want to build the best team. Think about that. We're hiring 2 new positions in our building. Guess what we're doing right now? We're screening applicants to figure out which ones we don't want on there. And then we're going through and we're going to try to figure out the skill set that best matches our existing team. They're doing that in esports. It translates to our day-to-day life. So anyway, League of Legends does that. And when they get into their combat, it becomes this mess that they're just working on their controller and the result, there's no visual violence. So that is one thing that has slowed the growth of it. Because in all honesty, the first person games, the Grand Theft Auto, I mean, those are the big sellers. We're not doing that that they can do that on their own time. WIAA is on board with that. They do a game called Overwatch, which is a little more on that violence spectrum. And we're just not ready to go there yet as an association. So.
Have parents discussed that with you, and how did you come up with that particular policy?
Just internally. I mean, talking with our board first and foremost, and then talking to superintendents. We have a superintendent's advisory council. We have a school director's advisory council. We have a DEI advisory council. We have a student advisory council. So we run these kind of concepts through all them, and it was unanimous. I mean, at some point we could inch our way maybe to maybe a little more middle of the road. But to start, we're going to be ultra conservative. The goal is to get it off the ground. The skill set is going to happen regardless of the game. The game, if it's something of high interest, will get more participants. Then we'll, just like we made the decision with Husky Stadium, is the extra cost worth the benefit? In this case, is the potential cost or whatever we're exposing kids to worth the benefit of getting that many more kids connected to the association? We'll have to make that decision at some point.
Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio .world. Mick, tell us about just some of your memories and highlights of the tournament seasons, going all the way back to football in the winter, coming through basketball and some of the winter sports, where there was such an inordinate amount of that. I didn't realize we were conducting that many championships to this final session of tournaments today. Give us some of your favorite memories that you will carry on and use not only as a leader in the organization, but also as someone who just enjoys high school sports and competition.
Yeah, I mean, 122 state events. So we have the opportunity, and I try to get out to as many as I can since our staff's out working. I would say, one, if you get a chance to go to cross country and stand around the finish line, watching those kids come in, I mean, they are literally, there's body fluids, I'll tell you that, collapsing because they're competing so incredibly hard. And we do a lot of ambulatory. So we had an ambulatory race where a young lady was on her own. And I said, Justin, this is cruel because they're starting on this steep uphill, and watching her take off and run that race and watch her finish, her pure exhaustion and joy of competing at the end solo, because no one else could keep up with her compared to all those kids at the other finish line. It's like, this is why we do that. So that was definitely one. In basketball, we had the half court shot here in Tacoma and all the uproar. And, a lot of people get all upset when we get bashed on Twitter. I don't read it. For me, what it tells me is the great passion. People care about what kids are doing and what we're providing. So those kind of things, I love that. We had one just here at track at Mount Tahoma. We had another ambulatory student, and missing his leg from around the knee area down. He won his event, and he was at the awards podium. And for obvious reasons, he's in a wheelchair. He was sitting in his chair getting it. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, we need to figure out a way to get a ramp on the back of that thing out there in the middle of that track so he can be up on the podium like everybody else. And as I'm sitting there thinking about this kid gets up and he hops on one leg up onto the stage, up the podium to the very top, and just pure, I mean, I can barely get out of a chair anymore. And watching this kid do this because he wanted to be on the podium like everybody else. And again, it means something to them. And so we get to experience, I mean, I get to experience that in this job at every single event. There's something like that happens. And then hearing these stories of how these adults, the example in Yakima, to make a home site feel like a championship site in 2 hours. Those are things that I get to take away that most people don't get to do. I went out to our, we work at Special Olympics Unified Sports Soccer Championships, and those kids are playing to get to the stadium. And the buzz in that round robin session to get to Sparks Stadium to play for the state championship, the families, and it was serious competition, but with people with a perspective of happy to be there. Going back to what we heard in COVID, just let them play. It's good for kids. Well, that was more of a pure version of that in a highly competitive environment. So I get to bop around, and I'm not responsible. They don't let me run any events. So I get to bop around and experience them. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Speaking of that, you have such tremendous communication with your staff. How do you guys coordinate the communication? And sometimes you're driving at different points throughout the state. How do you guys prioritize where, number one, where you're going to be, number two, where you need to be, and then prioritize messages from everyone who's texting you from these different venues?
It's all Bluetooth on the road and voice activation texting. I'm learning technology. It takes a lot of coordination in the office. So we meet on a regular basis. So, we have a standing Tuesday staff meeting. Part of that is calendars. We meet as an exec team on Wednesdays and now Mondays as well to work on projects. And so for us, I find out where everybody's going to be. They each lead different sports. So like Andy Barnes, he's got golf and tennis. So Andy, where are you going to be? He tells us, okay, we got it. Do you need me anywhere? He'll tell me if there's a site that he's concerned about or something. Otherwise, I get a freelance. We do the same thing with Cindy with baseball, BJ with soccer, and then typically Justin and I rotate track sites because it's such a large event. With that many people, there's going to be more troubleshooting that needs to be done. I mean, that's our job, is to find a solution to a challenge. And so we do that. And then Casey and Andy and Sam, when she's with us, and our support staff, we have 4 really, really strong support staff. So, and Leah, they go out and cover other events. So we had 26 venues. We had 13 of us out there. And so some of them are bouncing around. Cindy got to her 3 sites. BJ got to a bunch. So we hire a lot of good volunteers.
Divide and make it happen.
Yeah, it takes a lot of coordination.
Juan Cotto with Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. As Daniel has put up on the screen, Juan is to the right, Mick is to the left. And we have this conversation every Tuesday on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Just explain to us the sense of, I want to say, when you finish a race, it's almost like a sense of relief, a sense of victory. When you guys go through a week that is just so, and a stretch that is so busy, tell us about just how exhilarating it is to be finished with it.
Yeah, I mean, it usually involves whoever's in that area getting together for a soda to celebrate.
Big spenders.
Yeah, and then we get back in the office, and that's how we start off that first day, is in a staff meeting to do a celebration. Just talking through, 1, is there anything we need to know? And then number 2, what went really well? And people get to share their experiences, because that's the biggest benefit we get in our job, is that we get to positively impact people. And we don't always get it right. That's our goal. But so we always go back and figure out how to mitigate and not repeat a common issue or something that didn't work out. But we then celebrate. And for us, what normally happens in reality is we got done on Saturday, made it to our homes on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're back in the office, and we had a board meeting all day Sunday. And so we're in the office 8 o'clock Sunday morning. We got out of there about 5:30. Our board members are in the same position. They're flying in from around the state, driving in. They come and they making hard decisions after they just got done. Most of them are athletic directors, being at state events either with their teams or as board members. So, July is a time where we put it in neutral for the most part. And that, you talk about coordination. Our focus of the staff meeting today was everybody had to say what they're going to do to kind of replenish themselves personally, and then make sure they got their time on the calendar. So I know they're taking it. So we're giving them a directive. They got to take at least a minimum of 2 consecutive weeks at some point to disappear and get away, because it's a lot of work, no different than anybody else. You need to do it with your life, and not only do most of what we have young families in the office, and we have to take care of ourselves and each other. We're no good to anybody.
Oh, I need to do it a lot more, Mick. Let me tell you. This is Mick Hoffman, the Executive Director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, for our Tuesday WIAA Primetime conversation that we have about the student athletes and the opportunities for student athletes through their high school athletics in the state of Washington. As we're starting to wind down, Mick, for this particular episode, just give us a feel of the experience of seeing just the communities come together and seeing all of these amazing performances that you saw in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain. It's something you feel, right? And when I'm standing there in the middle of the track at the football field at Zeffel, and I'm looking around in the crowd, and you're hearing these roars in different places and kids warming up, and then you go to Mount Tahoma and it's replicated, that it's not just this unique one place or one time. And you're thinking, we're responsible for this. We're helping make this happen. That's a motivator, and it just feels good. Like, I think we all seek out opportunities to positively impact others, and our jobs set the table for that. We just have to execute. And with that, if I could make a shameless plug, we have an opening in our office. It's the Director of Education and Special Programs. So it would be involved in doing all this work, helping us with coaches' education, helping with events, helping with honors of individuals and those kinds of things. And so we're really hopeful that we can find some candidates that are interested in coming to work at the WIAA. So if you go to WIAA.com, it's all the information's on there.
What's the name of that position again?
It's right now we're calling it Director of Education and Special Programs. So get to really work in all areas of our organization.
He is Mick Hoffman, the Executive Director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Mick, thanks so much for being here. And I just want to give you one last opportunity. Once again, it's been a big week with the announcement of the football state championships being at Husky Stadium. And you talked about the fact that Jen Cohen played such a tremendous role in this. Always great to see our highest academic institutions pulling together and really valuing athletics. And that's the exciting piece that I wanted to kind of end up on. If you could say a few words about the fact that just from an athletic standpoint, but also from an academic standpoint, to be at the major, and not that Pullman isn't bad, and Central Washington and Western, but the University of Washington has a special ring over here in these parts.
Yeah, and as an Oregon State fan and a Coug, I can still say it is an awesome opportunity. And, for getting our kids on college campuses. So I was a kid whose parents didn't go to college. So college was like a scary concept. I didn't know what I was getting into, where it was at. Hadn't been on a college campus other than a basketball camp one time at Oregon State. And so it's scary. So hopefully what we want to do with this is provide an opportunity for families and fans to be able to get there, see a campus, understand it's not this forbidden place or difficult place to be, like it's welcoming, and that college is a possibility for anybody who wants to go do it. So, as an education-based association, we want to open those doors, and University of Washington's given us an opportunity with this.
He is Mick Hoffman. I am Juan Cotto, and we will see you next Tuesday.